In my apartment, my lights, my TV, and other electric devices turn on when I need them, but I don't have to press a button. In this video, I'll talk about how I designed my apartment to think on its own. When I first started with home automation, each new thing I tried added more and more to the UI and made it more complex. It ended up being a pain to use. Now I just try and keep it simple. I use as few inputs as possible and let my home think for itself. It uses my location, the location of other people, and the environment to know what to do. Additionally, I worked with the constraints of living in a rented apartment and having a significant other that isn't the biggest fan of all my automations. So I had to accommodate for that. Hi, I'm Ron. Use the timestamps in the description to skip ahead. To start, I had 4 goals with my home automation setup that will guide this video. First, I tried to make my dumb devices, such as my lights and my old TV, turn on and off when they should without my direct input. Then, I made some automations to keep my electric bills down. After that, I tried to improve how I interact with devices that I couldn't completely automate. Next, I wanted to handle special situations, such as people visiting or me going on vacation. I'll end the video with some tips that I wish I knew when I was starting with home automation. Let's take a look. My main goal was to make my dumb devices a little bit smarter. I used a variety of methods to turn my lights and my devices on and off. The first is by tracking my location. I set up 5 locations for me: at my computer, watching TV, sleeping, general home, and away. As a side note, I'm not worried about tracking that information because it's all stored in a Raspberry Pi within my own network that's running open source software called Home Assistant. It's not up in the cloud somewhere. My status changes based on environmental inputs and talking to other devices on my network. For example, it switches my status to at computer when it detects my monitor is on with a smart switch that measures current. It knows I'm watching TV when it detects someone watching Plex or YouTube on the Chromecast. My roommate uses the TV for Netflix and watching cable, which made it easy. It can tell when I'm leaving or arriving at the apartment when my phone disconnects or connects to the network. Automations interact with devices when my status changes. You can see my headphone amp turn off when I manually change the status and simulate leaving my computer. Also, automations make my 10-year-old dumb TV a little bit smarter. I have an automation that turns it on using an infrared LED when I send a video to the Chromecast that's connected to the TV. I'll show you an example. Check out the flashing LED that simulates the TV remote.
I'm going to show you how to make the ultimate alarm
The TV also turns off when I finish casting. The TV is so old that there are no USB ports to power the Chromecast, so I have to plug it into the wall. But this actually helps out because it enables the automation to run when the TV is off. Finally, I have an alarm clock that turns on devices when I want to wake up. I made a video about this and I'll link to it. My home automation setup slightly offsets its own cost by helping me reduce my electric bill. It monitors my 2 computers. One is a power-sucking rig that I try and turn off whenever I can, and the second is an efficient server that I run 24/7. I'll get a notification if I haven't been at the computer for a while and I forgot to turn off the power-sucking rig. On the other hand, if my server turns off for some reason, I'll also get a notification. There's a second way I save power. It's a little crazy and probably wasn't worth the time it took to figure it out, but I'll share it anyway. My bedroom light fixture has 2 hue bulbs that automatically dim at sunset. However, I actually turn one bulb off rather than dim both. I calculated that this saves about 30% of the power versus dimming both bulbs to achieve the same brightness. Which bulb dims either right or left alternates each day. As much as I would like to, I can't automate everything in my home. I use a few techniques to make directly triggering devices simpler. I set up scripts that can be activated by Alexa. When I set up scripts, I think about the use case, not the devices themselves. For example, I prefer to read with my nightstand light, so reading mode turns off my main light and turns on the one on my nightstand. I'll show you. Alexa, turn reading on.
Okay.
I described how my setup works normally. I also have special automations when my girlfriend is visiting or when I'm traveling. The system goes into visitor mode when my girlfriend's phone connects to the network. That way, the bedroom lights won't leave her in the dark when I hop on the computer, which has happened in the past. Similarly, the system goes into vacation mode when my phone hasn't connected for 24 hours. The lights turn on and off to simulate a person being home. I'll end with a few tips. When doing location or situation tracking, create a new variable, such as an input select or input boolean in Home Assistant, to track the status. Try to avoid coding the devices themselves, that is the device tracker entities, directly into the automations. If I get a new phone, I only need to update the one automation that changes the input boolean status, rather than every automation that depends on my phone's location. Keep a list of automations and devices. I prefer a spreadsheet, but use whatever method is comfortable for you. Generally, it can be difficult to keep track of all your automations, especially ones that depend on different statuses. Your notes can keep this straight. I even went a little crazy and made a sheet that generates code. It takes a list of entities from Home Assistant. You can assign icons, etc. in the table. Then it outputs the YAML code on this tab, specifically for the Customize and Group sections, based on the earlier table. Here's a quick summary of what I covered. Making dumb devices smarter, saving on your electric bill, streamline stuff I can't automate, accommodating visitors and vacations, and some tips for home automation. I know I covered a lot of stuff. I'll link to additional reading materials in the description. Let me know if there's anything you'd like to learn more about or see a how-to guide for. I also put all my code on GitHub and link to it in the description if you'd like to take a look. I plan to make additional videos about my setup, so subscribe to get updates about new videos. Have a good one!